Okay, welcome again, everybody, to church this morning here in Invermere. Lovely to see all of you here in Invermere. And may you know that there is a fellowship time. So we have food and drink after church and a time to visit one another. So Wendy, are you taking care of that today? Yeah, thanks, Wendy, for doing that. Nice to see people up in Golden at St. Andrew's Church and also the rest of you online. So we'll just go through the announcements. So next Sunday, anyway, the reason we do this, we have a few visitors today, so I'll just try and explain some things that I'm paid half-time, so we get to do creative things on Sunday morning. And so I'm giving the message next Sunday as well. But then on May 5th, I'm going to be interviewing Rochelle Januski. Rochelle teaches leadership. She lives with her husband Murray in Fairmont Hot Springs, and they teach leadership. And so I'm going to be interviewing her about matters like that on May 5th. Next Sunday, we're going to have communion during our regular 10:30 service. So this is something we haven't done for 4 or 5 years now. We've had early chapel services, but of course COVID changed things and so on. And it's a little bit more challenging when we have a portion of our congregation online and then the folks up at St. Andrew's Church. But they're quite happy to have elements up at the church, and they will partake in communion there. And folks online, next week you may want to have some juice or wine and bread nearby as well. And we'll give this a try. So next Sunday we'll have communion as part of our regular service. So we give a shout out to the Mission and Service Fund of the United Church and the PWRDF Fund, the Primates World Relief and Development Fund, which is, they're both programs with the United and Anglican Church. We're a United Anglican shared ministry, and they do an awful lot of good work in Canada and around the world. So good organizations to financially support. And thank you for your financial support to the church, however you can. It is appreciated. Every Friday mornings, we have what's called Fridays with Eckhart Tolle. He's a spiritual teacher, which has so much to do about self-reflection and self-awareness. And so it's an online group, and it goes from 10 to 11:30. And just let me know if you'd like to give it a try and receive a link. We're just keep an eye out for a house or an apartment for rent. Groundswell's annual plant sale, Artisan Market and Garden Wisdom, Saturday, May 11th from 11 to 3. Groundswell is a nonprofit organization that teaches people how to grow your own food, become self-sustaining, and bring love to your environment. All their plants are organically grown. Okay. In April 2023, a steering committee was formed to work with all in ministry and the wider community to discern what affirming could look like for the Windermere Valley Shared Ministry and for St. Andrew's Church in Golden. This spring, we plan to lead a service either on June 9th or 16th, because June is Pride Month, and I think the Pride celebration here in Invermere is the 15th of June. Weekly, we will share examples of what is happening in United and Anglican churches across Canada. Proud Anglicans is a group of diverse gender and orientation diverse folk and allies in Canada. Our focused work is for the full inclusion of the community in the Anglican Church of Canada. We are about equality and welcome for everyone. Our faith in this work rests in God's love for all. Windermere Valley Shared Ministry and St. Andrew's United Church in Golden are both part of the larger Pacific Mountain Regional Council. In June of 2021, the Pacific Mountain Regional Council officially became affirming. From within the affirming ministry statement come the following words. We affirm that someone's gender identity, gender expression, or sexual orientation is sacred, will be celebrated, and will not be a barrier towards full participation. Together, we will use tangible resources to embody a ministry that is public, intentional, and explicit of our call to live out these values, and that even as we make mistakes, we commit to continually learning and evolving. Those are beautiful words. Tonight at 6:30, we have Charlene coming to talk about a musical event we're going to have here at the church. Come on up, Charlene. Well, the people online won't be able to hear you. Yeah. And so here comes Charlene. Yeah.
Really quickly, I think we're ready. I think we're ready to go. I think we have a lovely assortment of poets and pickers and piano players that are entertaining tonight. A lot of interactive songs. Thank you so much for everybody. We're going to start setting up at 5. Everything we've got enough snacks to feed everybody twice over, I'm sure. And Wendy, we promise we'll clean it up. We'll promise. I know we've got bags of popcorn. Just show us where things are. Thank you again. I put a copy of the program out on the bulletin board if you want to help tonight. And setup starts at 5, and we start at 6:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlene. Wonderful. So that's tonight. All right. So we had a church council meeting here after church with some others last Sunday, and plus I met with the church council of St. Andrews on Thursday, and I let them know that I'm going to retire in a year's time. And so I turned 67 next year. Some people say I look 87, but and it'll be kind of wrapping up 5 years of ministry here. And of course, Sally and I, this is our home. We are going to grow old with you people, so we'll continue to be involved for sure. But in the United Church, I've been paying into a pension for 40 years, but I don't get to start claiming the pension until I retire. So that's one thing. And in its wisdom, the church also says that when a minister retires, they need to step out of ministry for a period of time. And so that will also happen. But again, we're not going anywhere, and we are going to continue to be involved in the church and in each other's lives. But it's going to be in a year's time. I like to give lots of notice because, of course, anyway, that's just the way the church works, and so on. So anyway, just wanted to let you know, too, about that news. We've been reading through the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and this is the end of the preface. We've been reading through the preface. And then after today, we get into the articles. Recognizing and reaffirming that Indigenous individuals are entitled without discrimination to all human rights recognized in international law, and that Indigenous peoples possess collective rights which are indispensable for their existence, well-being, and integral development as peoples. Recognizing that the situation of Indigenous peoples varies from region to region and from country to country, and that the significance of national and regional particularities and various historical and cultural backgrounds should be taken into consideration. Solemnly proclaims the following United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples as a standard of achievement to be pursued in a spirit of partnership and mutual respect. So that ends the preface, and now next week we begin to read the articles. We gratefully acknowledge that we are on Indigenous land that has been occupied by Indigenous peoples for thousands of years. And here, apparently, for thousands of years, this has been called Tanaha land, and land that they share with the Sepwepnik people, homeland of the Métis and Inuit people and other Indigenous peoples, and of course, shared with us settlers. We seek to live and work together, play together in an atmosphere of respect for one another. And friends, I just invite us to have a moment of stillness, a moment to come into the present moment. I'll light the worship candle. The Lord be with you. I invite you to stay seated. We'll sing a couple times through this musical invocation. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary. It's number 18 in More Voices. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Today is the fourth Sunday of Easter. Always the fourth Sunday of Easter is Good Shepherd Sunday. So for sure today, it will include Psalm 23. We will also read a passage from the Gospel of John, which describes a very intimate relationship between the sheep who know the voice of the shepherd, who leads them in a healthy way that they may have life and have it abundantly. A beautiful hymn is Are You a Shepherd? It's 126 in More Voices, which is the coil-bound book. And you can sit or stand, whatever you'd like. Let's enjoy singing Are You a Shepherd? Are you a shepherd, good shepherd, who leads us safely through danger while calming our fears? Are you a father who shelters and feeds us, shares in our laughter and wipes away tears? Yes, you are shepherd, parent and teacher, but you are greater than all that we know. Holy and living, loving and giving, God, you are with us wherever we go. Are you a mother, good mother, who bears us, comforts, protects us, and helps us to rest? Are you a teacher who daily prepares us, challenging students to offer their best? Yes, you are shepherd, parent and teacher, but you are greater than all that we know. Holy and living, loving and giving, God, you are with us wherever we go. Great gentle shepherd, forever beside us, lead all your children in paths that are right. Great loving parent, wise teacher, you guide us. We want to love you and bring you delight. Yes, you are shepherd, parent and teacher, but you are greater than all that we know. Holy and living, loving and giving, God, you are with us wherever we go. That's beautiful. Thanks, everybody. We always have words of wisdom as part of our service, and today we have the 12 steps, which of course are used for people who are feeling trapped and unhealthy by many different things, not just alcohol, but by many different addictions, but also just mind activity, our mind, of all the things that can trap us. It's often our thoughts and our minds. And then it's going to be followed up with the 12 steps of insanity, which helps us to see the difference between living well and living not well. So first, the 12 steps. We admitted we were powerless over whatever. And it actually could be other people. It could be over a lot. That our lives had become unmanageable. So beautiful. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood God. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood God, praying only for knowledge of God's will for us and the power to carry that out. And lastly, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we try to carry this message and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Okay, so now the 12 steps of insanity. We admitted we were powerless over nothing. We could manage our lives perfectly, and we could manage those of anyone else that would allow it. Number 2, came to believe that there was no power greater than ourselves, and the rest of the world was insane. Number 3, made a decision to have our loved ones and friends turn their wills and their lives over to our care. Number 4, made a searching and fearless inventory of everyone we knew. Number 5, admitted to the whole world at large the exact nature of their wrongs. Number 6, we're entirely ready to make others straighten up and do right. Number 7, demanded others to either shape up or ship out. Number 8, made a list of anyone who had ever harmed us and became willing to go to any lengths to get even with them all. Number 9, got direct revenge on such people whenever possible, except when to do so would cost us our own lives or at the very least a jail sentence. Number 10, continued to take inventory of others and when they were wrong, promptly and repeatedly told them about it. Number 11, sought through nagging to improve our relations with others as we couldn't understand them at all, asking only that they knuckle under and do things our way. And number 12, having had a complete physical, emotional, and spiritual breakdown as a result of these steps, we try to blame others to get sympathy and pity in all our affairs. Okay, now these steps, the 12 steps, the path, a spiritual path, a way of wellness and so on, comes to my mind today thinking about Good Shepherd Sunday, but also Psalm 23, written, somewhere between 2,500 years ago and 3,000 years ago, but ways to be well in this world. So that's what we're talking about today. So now it's story time. You can see Benny, the bear there with a sheep. And so I'm going to go off shared screen and make my way over to the puppet theater. Do you two mind coming and sitting over there with me? Would that be all right? For the story time?
Are there people coming to
Trust
be with
me.
us?
Trust me. Just over here.
Oh, good. I'm glad there's other people.
On one of these chairs would be lovely. Yeah.
can't get
Hey,
through. Oh,
Benny. Hello. Good to see you. We've got a couple of children
Hi.
here today. Yeah.
Those are pretty
Super
big.
nice, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, they're
This is
old
Benny the
children.
bear.
Yeah, hi.
Benny comes to church pretty regularly.
Yeah.
And Benny's very smart for a bear. Well,
Well, thank you.
Benny's very smart for anybody. And tell me, you're John? Johnny and Ethan. Johnny and Ethan.
Hi, Johnny and Ethan.
Wonderful. How's the visual? It's fine. So
I
I'm.
look pretty good. Oh,
Yeah, you look wonderful. Today I want to talk about metaphor. Have you ever heard that word before, Johnny and Ethan? Not too much, no. You know,
ooh, there's someone
yeah,
else
you're
who's
onto
smart.
it. You're onto it.
Yeah.
So I've been spending a little time learning about metaphor, and life is full of metaphors. I'm going to give you some examples. It's anyway, a metaphor, and it's a little hard to define. It's a figure of speech that's not literally true, but it's used to you refer to one area of life to describe another area of life. So and you can do it because it could be that one area of life is hard to understand, so you refer to another area of life that is easier to understand. But sometimes we use metaphors just to be creative and fun, even goofy.
Like when you wake up in the morning and you're like a bear.
Ah.
Oh, no, wait, that's not a metaphor. That's a simile. I know. So you wake up and you're, you don't say like a bear, you just say you wake up and you're a bear.
You feel bearish.
Then that means that you're waking up and being really nice and friendly.
Yeah, because bears are always really nice and friendly.
Yeah, like
yeah,
that.
I'm sure that's the meaning.
Did I just confuse things?
That's okay, because usually you straighten me up, Benny. So, okay, I'm going to use some metaphor examples, and I'll see if and sorry if I'm practicing your names, Johnny and Ethan. And have you ever heard of someone saying, I'm drowning in work, or I'm drowning in paperwork, or I'm... Excellent, Ethan. You've done it too much, and you're just kind of burdened by it. But you wouldn't really drown in paper, would you? So that's a metaphor. You're referring to drowning in the water for this experience of drowning in work or busyness or something like that.
It's overwhelming you.
Now, have you ever heard the expression, "Oh, she has a heart of gold"? Have you ever heard that? Not yet. You're a little young, but you'll hear it someday. Anybody here heard it? Yeah. I like it, Ethan. Ethan saying that the person has a kind heart and is willing to help with things. Now, if it's not literally true, because if you literally had a heart of gold, that would not be a good thing, right? No, that's not. So it's a metaphor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, has anybody ever said to you, but maybe I should word it differently. Has anybody out here ever been called a couch potato? Oh, Gavin's put it. There's an honest man. There's an honest man. Now that's a metaphor, isn't it? Because
he's not a potato.
No, I mean he's not literally a potato, and none of us are. And so that's a metaphor. We're sort of referring to one thing, and it's kind of fun and creative.
And what would a couch potato do? It would just sit on a couch, and potatoes can't do anything, so they'd just sit there and do nothing.
Yeah, they'd be sort of like a vegetable on a couch. Oh, that's a metaphor too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're sort of just not doing much, being a vegetable, being a potato. How about this one? It's raining cats and dogs. Have you ever heard of that, Grace? Yeah. Now that's a really silly metaphor, isn't it? Because I don't know where that would have come from, raining cats and dogs.
Well, maybe it's like saying that the raindrops are even bigger than you can imagine.
Yeah.
There's so many.
We have a dog, and if there was a bunch of black labs coming down from the sky, that'd be really
Get
weird.
really wet.
Yeah. So, can anybody else out here in church land think of any other metaphors? We use them all the time. Charlene? Oh, cool. So Charlene just drove down a black ribbon of highway. Oh, 7th Avenue. Oh, yeah. Yeah, new asphalt. I haven't driven on it yet. Oh, yeah. So life is full of metaphors, but in church, in religion, and in spirituality, it's full of metaphors. Partly because anything that's spiritual, anything about God, we can't know just directly, because words and language and words and thoughts are really good in the world of objects. But if whatever is spiritual is not an object, then we need to use metaphors to talk about it. So that's what we do. So we use metaphors a lot. And today we're going to be focusing on it's called a psalm, which is like a song that was sung years and years, like hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And yeah, I think so. Now, maybe you've heard of it, the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. Have you heard this one? Yeah. And as you get older, you're going to hear it more, and so on. But it's full of metaphor. The Lord is a metaphor. Because what do you think of when you think of Lord? A person with power and great responsibilities. I like it. Yeah. And the Lord is my shepherd. Now, shepherd is a metaphor. And back then, probably whoever wrote this really knew what shepherds were and sheep and that kind of stuff. So it was a metaphor that spoke to them. If we wrote about the sacred reality of life today, we might use different metaphors. But then it goes on, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He is a metaphor. Because any language we use for the sacred reality becomes metaphor. So the danger, and like I said, one of the definitions of a metaphor, it's not literally true. So the trick is, how do you use metaphors for that sacred reality without literalizing it, like thinking that it's he. And because even the word God is like a metaphor. Yeah. And that's the trick in life. How do we use metaphors without making them literally true? But then even other parts of the psalm, he makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. Those are metaphors. He anoints my head with oil. My cup overflows. Like all of it becomes metaphor.
It's kind of like poetry, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe poetry has a lot of metaphors in it.
It does, yeah. So when we're part of church life and religion and spirituality, we need to understand metaphor and be comfortable with metaphor. So does that seem like a serious topic today? Or did you do okay with it?
Seems like an English lesson.
Well, and I'm sorry, I'm a little bit speaking over your heads to all of us, because this is good for all of us to learn further today and appreciate the importance of metaphor. Yeah.
I like it. I like the idea that it speaks to things that you can't speak to. Kind of.
Yeah, that's right. That's a beautiful way to put it.
It's like, it's heart language maybe.
It doesn't speak to the head, it speaks to the heart.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's beautiful, Benny. Okay, well, it's time for a trio. We're going to have a special music selection, and I'm going to ask Sally and Carolyn and Greg to get all ready for this.
I'll go so that Sally can get ready. Bye.
Okay, bye, Benny. Thanks a lot for coming up. Yeah. So this song is called I Look to the Shepherd. Water Did you notice the title that Sally put there for the story time? Metaphorically speaking. Okay. And now, there we just sang the special number, and now Marla is going to come and read our scripture today.
Good morning. The first reading is Psalm 23 from the King James Version. Here the psalmist speaks of God's shepherding that restores human life. The verbs reveal the nature of God's work. Makes to lie down, leads, comforts, prepares, anoints. In the ancient Near East, no one was more present with sheep than a shepherd. That closeness and attention to the needs and natural tendencies of the flock makes the shepherd a wonderful metaphor to explore what it means for God to take care for God's world and what it means for us to live in that care. Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me into the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So now here's a paraphrase of Psalm 23 by Shelley Ross. O God, you are my shepherd. I should not desire much more, but desire to visit my isolated grandma. I have my share of comforts, and knowing you are there offers peace, especially in the chaos, crisis, and the unknown. You calm my inner being and soul. I recognize your voice, God, encouraging me to always do the right thing. Even though life is surrounded by death, sickness, solitude, and unsafety, I am not afraid. But really, I am sometimes, for I trust that I am not alone. You are always prepared and keeping watch, and knowing this brings comforts even on the darkest of days. Even when it seems that others do not think of me or wish me well, you are there, providing and caring for me. When I feel down, you remind me of your love. If I'd just look, I'd see my life has such goodness and blessing. May I always be able to identify kindness and goodness in life, and forever be in the presence of you, the Good Shepherd. Here's the gospel reading, John chapter 10, verses 10b to 18. If it is your tradition to stand for the gospel reading, please feel free to do so. John 10. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand, who is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and runs away, and the wolf snatches them and scatters them. The hired hand runs away because a hired hand does not care for the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own knows me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. And I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that do not belong to this fold. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice. So there will be one flock, one shepherd. For this reason the Father loves me, because I lay down my life in order to take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it up again. I have received this command from my Father. May we hear sacred wisdom through these human texts. Thanks be to God. Amen.
Thank you, Marla. May the words that I speak and the way we hear and apply and process them reflect divine wisdom today. So, one of the things that I feel is essential to what we do here, religion, church, spirituality, is to be well and to live well. For me, the focus isn't on life after death, and it's not about believing in correct teachings and dogma. It's helping each other be the best we can be, to be well and to live well. Because if we have well individuals, then that's good for them, that's good for others, and it's good for the world. When people are well, then society becomes better and well. And I reflect on something maybe I've shared with you before, but there was a woman in the church that I served as an intern in Thunder Bay, and I was visiting her one day, and she sincerely said to me, "Does God want us to be happy?" And just when you reflect on that for a minute, you think, what happens in our religious church life teachings and so on that anybody would ever question that? Does God want us to be happy? And yet for her, it was sort of somehow that, oh, are we supposed to suffer? Are we supposed to, I don't know, whatever, does God want us to? And it's like, oh, let's unpackage that one. But then, like in today's reading from John, we hear this beautiful phrase that Jesus says, "I have come that you may have life and have it abundantly." God and Jesus wants us to experience, another term is the fullness of life. So fullness of life, the abundance of life, life abundantly. And I want to say, yeah, God wants us to be happy, wants us to be well, to live well. I think of the 12 steps that, I'm hoping that's, maybe I shouldn't word it that way. I imagine, I don't know if that's the way to word it, that when I read the 12 steps of insanity, that you could relate to some of that at some part of your life. And I'm also hoping that you're going, yeah, but I'm not there to that degree, and to another degree I'm living well, and I'm living well in my own skin, I'm relating to other people pretty healthily, and so feeling a bit of the abundance of life. So, I think it's so important what I was sharing in the story time about metaphor. I was part of a course a few years ago, and the person presenting said when he was trying to decide whether to become a minister or not, he asked a friend, and the friend said to him, "Well, if you become a minister, you need to be comfortable with metaphors." And it just jumped out for me. It's like your whole world, that's overstating it, but so much of your world is in ministry becomes living with metaphors. And of course, isn't that true for all of us then? If we care about this endeavor of religion and church and Christianity, to really appreciate that you can't speak about the spiritual dimension really without using metaphor. So we need to get comfortable with it. And coming back to that term, it's part of the definition of a metaphor is it's not literally true. It is using a figure of speech to cast light on something that is hard to understand otherwise. Now, something I'd like to just share again this morning, because I find it so important. And again, I was reminded of it. I finished reading about a month ago a beautiful book by Paul Knitter entitled "Without Buddha, I Could Not Be a Christian." And he's a deeply devoted Christian person. He's 85 now, but he was a professor at Union Seminary in New York City. But it's a beautiful book. "Without Buddha, I Could Not Be a Christian." And apparently the Buddha had a phrase that I think is just so important. And the phrase is this: the finger pointing to the moon is not the moon. So you think, was it 2 weeks ago, the eclipse and all the people looking up at the moon, maybe some people were pointing, I don't know. But the finger pointing to the moon is not the moon. It's the finger pointing. It's the sign that points. But don't mistake the finger for the moon, for what it points to. So the wisdom that the Buddha was trying to get across is any language that we use for spirituality, it's going to be a finger, and it's not going to be it. So everything that comes out of our mouth, almost anything we think with our mind, becomes a finger pointing to the moon. Don't mistake the finger for what it's pointing towards. And so I think it's so helpful here because it's really natural and easy for us to begin taking things literally and mistaking the fingers we use to point to the sacred reality as the same thing. And so, even in Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, he makes me. And so all of that is metaphor, all of that is finger pointing to something beyond, right? So today, I don't know, maybe we've all been conditioned enough when we speak of God. But see, even the word God for me is a finger that points to something and it's a problematic word for many people. There's a lot of people not in church today. They're out in there because for them, God is a finger that just doesn't work any longer because people have been so conditioned. When you hear the word God, you think of a Zeus-like figure. And for so many people, that if God is a Zeus-like figure, they just go, that doesn't work for them. And so we live in this world where we want to experience the sacred spiritual reality and then sometimes dare to speak about it, but then use words that become imperfect. And so obviously, if I can say it that way, when we say God as He, Father, it's metaphor, it's fingers pointing to something beyond that. Don't mistake the finger for what it's pointing toward. And any word that we would use becomes that. And I'm grateful to be living in a time where we're trying to find other words and other fingers that point toward it. I love the imagery of the wave on an ocean. And if all we think of ourselves as a wave and surrounded by other waves, and then some people think they're a big wave and they've got their name on an office tower, we're all waves on an ocean. And we're not really, but we're the ocean. And so, the person who wrote this beautiful Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, the sheep and the shepherd are connected perhaps through the voice and so on, but a wave on an ocean, that might be a metaphor. It's a metaphor that works for me too. Or a ray of sunlight connected to the sun. And you could ask the question, is a ray or a particle, a wave or a particle of sunlight, is it the sun or is it connected to the sun? Is there a difference? Is there a connection? The sun and a ray of light. So would we say the source of life is the sun to me? A different metaphor, a different finger that points to the more. Oh, there's other metaphors we could use. find it very helpful. Someone I trust deeply, when it was asked if God is a person, said, of course God's not a person. The word person comes from the Greek persona. Sona means to sound through, and per was a mask that an actor or an actress wore. They would wear a persona, which becomes a personality, which is like a mask that you sound through. And to think of God as a person is so limiting. And once I heard that, I went, okay, I'd really like to move away from the source of love and life being a deity out there as a person. I get the limitations of it. It's a metaphor, it's a finger, but that it's not literally true. But that, I know that's challenging for us because we've been so conditioned to think otherwise. And to think of God, again, using that finger, as to think of that more of life. I like William James in his book, The Variety of Religious Experience, called the sacred source the more of life. And then sometimes I like that language too, the more of life. So to think of that more of life as not being separate from us, out there somewhere, different than us, but to think of that as also being the essence of us, much like if we're a wave on an ocean, a wave is also the ocean, it's not separate. So maybe the sacred reality is the essence of who we are. And there's a word that now we use these days in spirituality, essence. And you might go, what is essence? Does that work for you? And again, it's only a finger. It's only even a metaphor that points to even the word depth, the depth of you. Who are you on your surface, on the surface of you, and who are you in your depth? And is it possible that who you are in your depth is where you meet the depth of life that you're never separate from, the more of life? Is this another way of thinking of this, of the more of life, of the sacred dimension to life? It's not out there, it's also the essence of who you are. So I like Paul Tillich's term, the ground of our being, or the ground of all being. That God, but then there's that word again, is the ground of all our being, and the ground of being, and we are beings ourselves, we're human beings, but in our essence, in our beingness, we're not separate from the ground of all being. Okay. So now I just want to lead into talking about Psalm 23. It's a beautiful piece, and I did think about it as along with other pointers that we have, like in our society, we have things like the 12-step program, which has helped millions of people find a new way of life, found sobriety and sanity, transformation, and so on. It's just one tool. For some people, it doesn't work for them as a tool. That's fine. But are there other tools? And then reading Psalm 23, again, written by someone 2,500 years ago, in using that language, that imagery, that metaphor. Let's just go over it again quickly. It's a beautiful one to memorize. It's quite easy to memorize it. The Lord is my shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. So even that term, I shall not want, is beautiful. It's talking about that part of life of our wants. And as human beings, we have needs and so on, but sometimes we can have these insatiable needs that never get met, and never get met on the outward external things of life. And we move from one sort of experience to another, trying to get our needs met. So it's beautiful. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. It's like all my needs are met. And then he makes me lie down in green pastures. So you can even just dwell with that. Makes me lie down in green pastures. You're not a sheep, but maybe even like that. You can get into that. And you can eat it, you can lie down, it just feels comfortable. I like it. He leads me beside still waters. It's pretty good. He restoreth my soul. He restores my soul. Doesn't that speak to you, too? Aren't there times where you just feel like I need my soul restored? He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness, or in right paths. And, you know, I love the part in Buddhism when they have right speech and right action. All of us are in these situations all the time. What is the right speech in this moment with this person? What is the right action for me to take? And I just like this part of the psalm, that when we're connected to that source, we're led in the right way to live, the right action, the right speech. All of us need it. All of us can relate to that. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. So all of those things, the valley, the shadow, the death, I will fear. So bring that word fear in there. I will fear no evil. But yeah, in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, because the person is not alone, because you are with me. There's a presence in those difficult times. And of course, the valleys of shadows of death are not just when we're dying or when our loved ones and friends are dying. It refers to a huge variety of experiences that we have as humans, a very difficult, challenging times. We all go through what this speaks to, points to, the valley of the shadow of death. I fear no evil, for I am not alone. The presence is with me. You are with me. Your rod and your staff, so thinking of a shepherd's tools, they even comfort me. And, shepherd, they may tap a sheep on the shoulder or butt or something like that. No, go this way, go that way. I don't know. Speaks to how we're guided in those dark and difficult times of life. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. I might have worded it a little bit differently. It seems to speak to, you've prepared a table before me, like a banquet in the presence of my enemies. You could interpret it, so I could sit there and go, nah, 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 nah. I'm eating all this food and you're not. But I sort of turn it the other way, where why do we have enemies? Because we feel threatened. And maybe we're vulnerable and starving or something like that. But if we're sitting at a banquet table, again, all our needs are met, the table's spread. Do we have enemies any longer? If we're not threatened any longer, then maybe we don't have enemies any longer. That's how I like that line. Thou anointest my head with oil. Again, that was where the word Christ comes from, is to be anointed. And that's what the way queens and kings were anointed in that way. So thou anointest my head with oil. I'm like royalty. I'm like royalty. I am that loved and that valued. You anoint my head with oil. It's like I am like royalty. My cup runneth over. So again, I like this. Sometimes I use this psalm at a funeral, because there are people, when you hear of their life journey, it's like, there's been lots of abundance, the cup has run over in so many ways. So my cup hath run over. And then surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And what I do with that is, I think of these two little dogs. One's name's Goodness and the other's named Mercy. And wherever you go, there's goodness and there's mercy. They're always following me. But there's something about when you live well and you are coming rooted in a good place, isn't it beautiful that somehow goodness and mercy seem to be your experience in life? That, I can't seem to get away from it. Wherever I go, I find goodness and mercy. I can move to a different town. There's goodness and mercy. Well, maybe it has to do with where you're rooted in your soul and that you're coming from this good place. And I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And that, for me, there's a sense when we come to that inner essence of who we are, to the ground of our being, to the depth of who we are, it's like coming home. And so that way that Psalm ends, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Again, moving away from it, thinking of it somewhere in the future or somewhere outside of us, it's like we're coming home into ourselves in a very safe and okay place. So I just want to end with this thought that when people go to the 12-step recovery program, one of the things that they do is it's a huge program about surrender. And I've slowly gained a deep appreciation about surrender because in my life, I have been a lousy surrenderer. I have not wanted to let go. I like being in charge. I like being in control. I like being the center of my own universe and so on. But in the 12-step program, it's not about me and me fixing myself and me doing it. You could say it's a huge part of surrender, letting go, releasing, and letting some power greater than your ego, my ego, do for you what you can't do for yourself. And when you start trusting and letting go and allowing life to be as it is and people to be as they are, and you start to just turn it over, and then you realize there's a sanity waiting all along for you to, sanity was there for me to experience. It's once you get the craziness of the mind sort of calmed down, there's sanity there. There's wisdom there, and so on. I hear the same thing in Psalm 23, where the psalmist is not saying, I did this and I'm doing this. It's like that higher power is doing it. God, he makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He, or God, or the higher power, restores my soul. He anoints me, my head with oil. He sets a banquet in front of my enemies, so I no longer have enemies because I'm okay. My cup runneth over. It's not about what we do. It's about living in faith and trust and surrender and acceptance and discovering that this greater more of life can do for us what we can't do for ourselves. So the connection for me, I just wanted to make that connection. And I'm glad that this type of, well, and maybe the last thing I'll say, when you read Psalm 23, you can hear that the author is celebrating coming from a good place. That they're feeling well and they're being well. And they found this sense of wellness in life, abundant life, maybe, as Jesus said. And I just am happy for that person and think that that's why all of us are part of this journey in this place and in this way of religion and spirituality. Thanks for listening, and thanks be to God. So our next two hymns are going to be shepherd hymns, to no surprise. And the next one is the King of Love, which is Psalm 23 put to words. Many of you older ones will find it familiar. It's 273 in Voices United. The King of Love, my shepherd is, whose goodness faileth never. I nothing lack if I am his, and he is mine forever. Amen. Thanks, everyone. And Karen, thanks for being out there to lead our prayer time. There you are. I can see you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
O God, you are a good shepherd at all times and in all circumstances. Thank you for your continual love and care for us. We ask for your presence in times of stress, discomfort, and pain. O Lord, you made all of us diverse with different races, different talents, and different countries. You have crowned us with your glory and honor. You have given us life abundant, full of the harmony of sight, sound, and sense. We acknowledge that we are dependent on you and on one another. May we care for those in any need and rejoice with those who rejoice, and be with everyone with support and caring. Heavenly Father, we are so grateful for all the blessings you have bestowed on us. Restore our souls, guide us each day to right paths best suited to our needs. May we follow your ways, confident in your goodness and mercy. We pray for all who are mourning the loss of loved ones. In our world, we pray for all countries who are at war, those who suffer from natural disasters and unnatural disasters. Please send your healing and comfort for all in this worldwide. Today, we hold up to you, Nadine, Deb, Robin and Cliff, Teresa, Joanne, Mark and Robin, Elizabeth, Terry, Kathy, Kelly, Rose, Sherry, Dick, Linda, Lee and Orst, Allegra, Taylor and Sarah, Hillary and Florence, Hobie, and all whom we name now aloud or in the silence of our hearts. Bless all caregivers and families with strength and courage. Source of all life, divine mother and father of us all, may your name be held sacred by all creation. May your kingdom and your will be lived here as it is lived by that great communion of saints who have entered your household. I ask that what we need, what we really need, would be provided. I ask that you would forgive me my sins and help me to forgive the people who have sinned against me. Keep me from that which would break me completely. Help me to recognize and stand in the face of evil, knowing that you hold me safe. Yours is the kingdom. Yours is the power. Yours is the glory, now and forever. Amen.
Karen, you put so much into what you do, and thank you so much. That interesting phrase, natural disasters and unnatural disasters. I've never heard it put that way. Thank you. Friends, I just invite you to stay seated. We'll sing our last hymn. I just invite you to sit down for this. He Leadeth Me, number 675.
And can I just say, I'm just going to add that as part of the affirming process, at least for me, I'm going to intentionally change some of the pronouns in this particular hymn. You don't have to, but during the refrain, I'm going to use the pronoun he, then she, then they, and then I'm not quite sure what'll come out after that. But we have 4 verses to experiment.
Well, thank you so much.
I hope that's okay. I might get in trouble copyright-wise, but I'm willing to take that risk. I'll take one for the team of our affirming process.
No, thank you so much for affirming that. That's really good. So, maybe we do that every time we sing this. 657, do we?
Yeah.
No, did I say Ryan? What is it? And what number is it, Greg? 567. No, 657. Well. 657. Thank you. All right.
So 67, which is somebody's age.
Well, let's sing it.
We should just sing now.
He leadeth me, O blessed thought, O words with heavenly comfort fraught. Whate'er I do, where'er I be, still 'tis God's hand that leadeth me. He leadeth me by his own hand, he leadeth me. His faithful follower I would be, for by his hand he leadeth me. Sometimes mid scenes of deepest gloom, sometimes where Eden's bowers bloom, by waters calm or troubled sea, till 'tis God's hand that leadeth me. She leadeth me by her own hand, she leadeth me. Her faithful follower I would be, for by her hand she leadeth me. Lord, I would clasp thy hand in mine, nor ever murmur nor repine, content whatever lot I see, since 'tis my God that leadeth me. They leadeth me by their own hand, they leadeth me. Their faithful follower I would be, for by their hand they leadeth me. And when my task on earth is done, when by thy grace the victory's won, in death's cold wave I will not flee, since God through Jordan leadeth me. He leadeth me by his own hand, he leadeth me. His faithful follower I would be, for by his hand he leadeth me. It's like we've used that male pronoun so much the finger has grown really big and all the other fingers are under exercised, and so. We close with these words of benediction. We are blessed to be alive. Life blesses us with many gifts that keep us alive. Life blesses us with many qualities that help us be glad we are alive. Life blesses us with great generosity. To see how life blesses us is to be blessed. To see how life blesses us is to return blessing to life. Blessing follows the simple act of paying attention. We simply need to pay attention, and we are blessed. We simply need to pay attention, and we bless in return. Let us go forth in life and pay attention. Let us be blessed, and let us be a blessing. Amen. We'll stop recording.